I know that one. I know that one. Black by Pearl Jam.
That's right.
Yeah, we're gonna need a full version of that one.
Yeah, that's coming.
That's beautiful. Hey everybody, welcome back to Great Measures. My name is Richard. This is Judson.
Great Measures, man.
It's been a few months, I think, since
No, Great Measures.
it's been a few months since we've done Lamb of God. I think we've only done one of their songs so far. We did Vigil from As the Palaces Burn. Mm-hmm. We're going to do the next album in line in chronological order. Chronological. This album is the song is called Hourglass. Yeah, it's from an album in 2004 called Ashes of the Wake.
Like hourglass or like
yeah,
hourglass.
A timekeeping device.
Okay, something to keep chronological moments in check.
Hourglass by Lamb of God from Ashes of the Wake. Ashes of the Wake. This album, like I said, came out in 2004. Very 9/11 Iraq War driven lyrical content here.
Okay.
In a lot of their songs, not all the songs, but in a lot of the songs on this album, it was the height of that time period. You know, really cool song. I was torn again. Like,
tell me the name of the song again.
Hourglass.
It's just called Hourglass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's another one of those, kind of like the Tom Sawyer video we did earlier. Like, I'm torn on what song to do from this album, and we'll do more from this album, but everybody starts with the song Laid to Rest, and it's probably their biggest song. I know from that album for sure. Probably their most well-known song, that maybe a couple of others. Redneck is another one. Walk With Me in Hell is another big one. And we'll do all those if you want to. We'll do all of them. We'll do all of them. Our time is limited. That's our only
for today.
Issue. But this is where I wanted to start with this album and this song in particular. Lyrically, it's pretty 9/11 Iraq War heavy. A lot of, from what I interpret of the lyrics, it's from the aspect of from the point of view of a soldier who bought into the narrative that there were weapons of mass destruction and all this stuff, and then he goes over and he dies for his country, and essentially died for what?
Tough subject matter.
Really cool riffs in this song. Lamb of God's riffs are just perfection in my opinion. Like they Mark Morton and Willie Adler are just two amazing riff writers.
Riff writers.
Yeah.
Riff writers.
So good. I think you'll see what I mean in this one. And then Willie's brother Chris is the drummer. Wish he was still with the band. Nothing against the current guy, Art Cruz.
Sure, he's a wonderful person.
But yeah, some of the drumming in this era of Lamb of God is just unbelievable.
Well, let's get to it. Stop gushing. Stop gushing over it. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Proceed, Richard.
A chosen view, blessed with our time and hell. Witness a divine vision, the day we all fell still. Enter the dying age, a shattered hourglass. Wrap up the warring gods, and so this too shall pass. It's only getting worse, not worth the moment's regret. Each dawn another curse, every breath a twisting blade. in the thing that you fell for. And so it goes. The ashes of the wake.
What do you think?
What do you think? What kind of metal is this considered?
Ooh. So they were a part of the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, so we talked about Iron Maiden, Judas Priest being a part of New Album, the new wave of British heavy metal. So in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a new wave of American heavy metal. There were bands like Lamb of God. I would even lump like As I Lay Dying into that. God Forbid is another band that kind of got thrown in there. Obviously, there are many others. I mean, they get... It's like just straight extreme heavy metal with metalcore. I don't know. They get lumped into a lot of different things. I mean, there's some groove elements in there. I don't know what you would... I mean, I just refer to them as part of the new wave of American heavy metal.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I mean, maybe people can explain
so
better than I can. I've never really been able to look at them as one subgenre of extreme metal. You know, I don't know that I could lump them into one category.
I like that I can understand what he's singing.
Yeah,
those are more harsh vocals rather than guttural. I mean, he's guttural singing.
Yeah, he's pretty harsh. Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean
he makes a point.
More understandable.
He makes a point for you to be able to understand what he's singing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
that's the only reason. Because I go back to "Laid to Rest." It's the opening song on this album, and like everybody that's watching is going to know what I'm talking about. But there's this one part before this breakdown in the middle of that song that, like, just what he says and how he says it and how clear it is, like it just fits perfectly.
Well, I like that I can understand him, but I think that's probably part of his. I don't know what's the dude's name?
Randy.
Yeah, Dread dude. He's pretty intense.
Yeah, high energy. And
I think he probably has. I'm guessing that he probably has. That's important to him.
Yeah.
For you to get the lyrical content. I mean, you can go back and read it all you want, but I mean, yeah, I think, and I could understand most of what he was singing, which is cool. He mentions Gehenna. I don't know if I'm saying that right in there, which is where they used to burn bodies outside of Jerusalem, which is actually, so I'm not trying to trample on anybody's religious thinking or anything like that. But it's interesting how an actual physical place in antiquity and the practices that went on there, for instance, the fire and brimstone and whatever, becomes a metaphorical thing later in more modern thought for an actual spiritual place called hell. When the word itself is derived, has an etymology from an actual place in antiquity outside, you know what I mean? It's interesting to me. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
Yeah, and you know, from what I know of the song, and like I said, if you put yourself in 2004, I mean, obviously we lived through that time. The mindset of the culture of war, so to speak, that was going on at that time. I think the line he says is, and I'm probably mispronouncing it too, but Gehenna has now arrived, no hindsight for the blind. Mm-hmm. Like blindly going to war and not being able to have the hindsight to go, we might not. Maybe
we've done this before.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't be here.
Right, and that's kind of touching on what I'm saying. You know, you make up your own reality later with things that have happened, and even worse, just accepting what somebody else tells you what it is without knowing.
Yeah.
You know, thank you for your service, for anyone who's ever.
Absolutely.
But for me, it would be a philosophical conundrum to not know exactly why I was going to a place that I was completely unfamiliar with, where the rules of war since World War II have completely changed. Mm-hmm. From you don't know who you're fighting.
Yeah.
There's so many casualties that happen from friendly fire during that particular era of war. Because you just didn't, I mean, it seems senseless. And especially when it comes out that the reasons that they gave the public for why they went was debatable.
Sure, yeah.
So, and not so much even debatable anymore. I mean, you know, they weren't there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it doesn't, so my views on personal views on things like, I just don't think we should have war anyway. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's a senseless act of you know, my personal views aside. Someone who, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but someone who decides to become a soldier and to go somewhere and fight for the love of their country, you can't screw with that ever, right? Because this is they're giving of their life for something that they believe in. Okay, we could sit here and judge all day about whether or not what they believe in has merit to it based on the outside influence of that merit.
Sure.
But that's not the conversation. You know, I don't want to mess with that. But it seems to be, you know, knowing the lyrical content here, there's no positive. He's not saying it's going to get any better.
No, I mean,
it's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's only getting worse. And he kind of has like this sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek tone about it towards the like. There's the really, really strong line that says, "You finally made it home, draped in the flag that you fell for." And so it goes, the ashes of the wake.
So, ashes of the wake. So, what is the wake? Would the wake be one of two things in my mind? Mm-hmm. Either the wake, like the resulting.
That's how I see it. Yeah.
Or the wake, which is what you have when you go to someone's funeral. Mm-hmm.
True.
Which it could be ambiguous. It could be both. And if it's really well written, then it is. Mm-hmm. But I don't see this as a slight in any way to the people that went over. Mm-mm. It's the people that sent them over.
Right.
And based on their merit and why they did, lack of, you could say, merit. And I agree with what he's saying.
Sure.
Very careful. So, you know, it's but to the point now, you know, we're at war now.
Sure.
So to speak.
Somewhat, yeah.
By proxy, you know, We're not sending people over there now. We're just
as in the U.S.
Yeah, we're just sending money over there.
Right. Yeah.
To fund somebody else, other people's war for our interest. So, in some way, you could say things have gotten better for the U.S. in terms of sacrificing casualties. Yeah. But then it's even worse because obviously, it's still going on. It's going on under a more politicized decisional making.
YouTube is never. I'm
trying. So it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse because the gods that he's saying are at war with each other are obviously people that are on a pedestal or people that are in power in some form or fashion. I really like the ashes of the wake.
Yeah.
Line or idea, because it is all ashes. Mm-hmm. And even if there's no, even if there are no lesson, and I think that's probably one of the things in the lyrics that stands out to me is that if there are no lessons learned from the ashes or the wake or whatever, then it's really bad. Then that's the worst.
Yeah.
If there's no, if a person doesn't learn from their mistakes, or I don't even want to use the word mistakes, but learn from past experience, however you want to define it, whether or not it was a mistake, good or bad. If you don't learn from it, then man, you're nowhereville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Musically, it's a really cool song. Mm-hmm. That middle section with that crazy riff, and then they double it up and they're harmonizing that riff with each other. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they I wish I could hear the bass more in that mix for some reason, but the bass and the drums play so well together.
Yeah.
This was a band that I had heard of Lamb of God before, years ago, when I was living somewhere else, playing in a bunch of bands. A guy that was in our little crew, in our atmosphere, was into metal. Mm-hmm. And I never listened to metal. I mean, I never really listened to metal like this. He mentioned Lamb of God to me, because I was listening to all hippie stuff and stuff like that. But he brought this. He told me about this band. He never sat me down and made me listen to it, and I probably wasn't. I was on dope and probably just didn't care and drinking and whatever. But knowing what I liked already, he brought this band to me. He's like, you would like this. Jeff Sullivan. That's his name.
Okay. Good
dude. I hadn't talked to him in a long time, but hopefully I made him aware of all this. But anyway, because of Lamb of God, because we did a Lamb of God song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I never really listened to him because, I mean, I was busy doing dope, bro. Mm-hmm. I mean, if he said, here's some dope in the Lamb of God, I'd been like... But he didn't do that.
Yeah.
And he was right. He was right. There are elements in there of just what I like about music anyway. I can deal with the vocals. Now, I was sitting here thinking as we were listening to it, am I starting to be able to speak guttural? If you're going to speak Spanish, you need to go somewhere where they speak Spanish. Yeah. And eventually, you may know some words, but you get it after a while. I'm thinking, maybe, have I listened to this so much that I'm...
Maybe we're getting there.
No, I don't think so. I think that he just...
He does articulate.
He articulates way
and enunciates pretty well.
Yeah. But that's nice for me, to be able to sit here, listen to it, and catch some of the words.
Right.
I mean, I didn't understand everything, but some of that was because I'm drifting off in my thought and listening to the guitars.
I think that's part of the appeal of Lamb of God too, is that they're essentially a gateway. I would consider them to be a gateway band for me in that time, because I think the first time I heard anything from them would have probably been 2003-ish. I believe Ruin was probably the first song I ever heard from them, which was the first song on the previous album, As the Palaces Burn. And I remember being able to catch certain things, certain lyrics, and being like, oh, okay, this is I'm kind of had the same reaction you did. Oh, I think I'm understanding this now. I think I'm getting and I think they are, in my opinion, they're one of those bands, especially for people around our age that were, you know, getting into metal at that time and the more extreme parts of metal. They were like a stepping stone band for me, I guess you would say. You know, not that I stepped off of them completely, but they were one of those bands that started to kind of turn my palate a little bit towards.
Turn my palate. I like that. You're full of them today, dude. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Well, you're right. The drummer's a madman in there.
Yeah, he's got some really cool stuff he does over the years. And like I said, we'll do more Lamb of God for sure, just because they're one of those bands, especially from that era. And, you know, they've influenced a lot of current bands today.
Do you know what the origin of the name why they would have picked that name? I mean, I know what the Lamb of God is, but do you know?
I don't know the story. So they were originally called Burn the Priest.
Okay.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it may not have been their very, very first name, but that was when they first started. They released, I believe, they released 2 albums under the name Burn the Priest, and then they. I'm probably getting this wrong, but then they switched to Lamb of God, and I think it could be, like I said earlier, like sarcasm, tongue-in-cheek. People had a big problem with the name Burn the Priest. Okay, well, we'll call ourselves sarcastically Lamb of God. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know that, but it seems like something they would do.
I'd be interested to know that. I mean, Lamb of God just, in the most generalized sense, it's just a sacrifice. It's just referring to a sacrifice for a greater thing.
Yeah.
And we could sit here and talk all day about the prospect of why they called themselves. It could just be a joke.
Yeah.
But I could see, just from a musician standpoint, how that could be really cool.
Right.
You're giving of yourself for this thing, this art.
True.
Call the art God, but whatever. Hey, Lamb of God, holla. Let us know why Lamb of God is so.
Yeah, maybe Mark will reach out to us. He's in recovery, very vocal about his sobriety.
Is he? Well, good for him.
Yeah. I follow him on X, used to be Twitter. He's pretty regularly, you know, he'll post early in the morning about what he's grateful for.
Good. We need more on our team.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. That was Hourglass by Lamb of God from 2004's Ashes of the Wake.
So what was the Hourglass? We didn't even talk about the name of the song. What that would have been. We'll get to it.
Let us know.
Our sands on this Hourglass have already been depleted.
You want to take us out?
Great measures.
We are Great Measures. My name's Richard. This is Judson. Have a wonderful day, everybody.